Hey, welcome back to Let's Animate, where we have finally finished our little introduction video here. I'll just go ahead and play it. It's exactly as we left it. The only thing, like I said, I wanted to, off camera, tidy it up a bit. The only thing, there was a slight discoloration here where our fake little background was set up for the end to fall into. On some of the previews I had, you could see the difference between the color of the fake rectangle compared to the color of the background. I don't know if you could see it in the previous videos, but regardless, I went back and I put a complete background color in the same color as the fake little area for the end to fall into, and made everything the same color. So now you cannot tell that there is a layer in front of this end where he falls in. We are done this video, set out everything we had to do. Now let's never speak of it again. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and like I said in a previous video, I have decided to go with working on an old idea that I had rather than start something new. What we'll probably end up doing is switching back and forth. Excuse me while I correct these screen regions here, and go back and forth, do an old piece of media that I had, switch to a new one, and see how that goes for a while. But for right now, the video I wanted to work on was from the 30 animated seconds of series that I mentioned, or TASO for short. And what it was 30 animated seconds of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, what are you looking at here, you're asking? This has nothing to do with Star Wars. No, it doesn't. Part of the idea of the series was that it was going to subvert your expectations, right? So you see the video title of Star Wars, oh great, lasers and lightsabers and space battles, Jedi, yay. In reality, what you get is a picture of a boardroom, picture of this ancient piece of technology right here, and our good friend J.J. Abrams, smugly tracing over top of this screen. And over top on this screen was going to be the Star Wars crawl from A New Hope. So Star Wars Episode 4 will start to crawl up the screen. Our friend puts some tracing paper over it, very happily, smugly traces it, hands it into the boardroom all proud, and Bob's your uncle. That's my interpretation of what Star Wars The Force Awakens was. Now, back at the time, this was actually a relevant conversation because everybody was talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens, their thoughts on it, the problems, the initial love of the movie, and then the ensuing backlash against it. And this was my place in all that. Now, it's pretty much meaningless, but it was a good enough idea that I thought, we need to finish it. So what better way to finish it than while recording and pushing myself to meet deadlines of a video a day, working on this project until it is done. When it is done, it will be published on the channel, and it will be a complete video, though from a different time, admittedly. So we have this, you might have seen these if you were ever in school. It's back in the day with the cart. You'd see teachers pushing these around the school on the wheels from classroom to classroom. An ancient piece of technology here called the VCR, and a nice big old tube TV on top. And then when your little classroom had to watch a movie, they would wheel this in, plunk in the cassette, and there you go. So that's what we were going to do with that. And I had this 12. I think this was set up. Yeah, it's on a switch layer. Yeah, so I set this 12 up to blink throughout the problem is you can't cycle these switch layers, I don't think. Oh, you can. Oh, okay, that's good. So yeah, so it'd have to change, but we can do that. And I mean, it's not funny. It's funny to me for some reason, but it's not funny. I just remember as a kid, what better way to show a neglected piece of technology than having it blink, right? Like, to me, that's how you're not gonna put cobwebs on it. That's so obvious. But to me, this screams neglected technology. That might even be too fast. And I remember as a kid, there was, I think for us it was a VCR that my parent, no, a microwave microwave that just nobody ever bothered to set the time on it, or if they did, they eventually just gave up. And we don't really need to have that going, but I think the joke is, for me, it'll be my own personal little joke there. The microwave, the neglected technology, right? In my house, it was the microwave. And I mean, there's so many places, even as a kid growing up in the 90s, now it's even more so with everyone's got a cell phone, and tablets are, next to the couches and bedside. And why do I struggle with these points? But even in the 90s, there was so many places you could tell the time. Like, I think everyone had a VCR or a satellite or cable box. The stoves often had digital clocks on them. And you didn't really need another digital clock. You just, you throw your food in the microwave, you punch in, 45 seconds or a minute or whatever you're doing. You don't really need a time on there. I don't know anybody that sets the time on their microwave. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, it just struck me as funny to have this 12 going, as unnecessary as it is. It's just a nice little personal touch to have in there. So anyway, what I thought we'd do today is just get the, this is going to have to be we have to cut it at 20 minutes. I got things to do. So what I thought we'd focus on is just getting this Star Wars crawl started. Maybe I'll put the layer on over top of this, and we'll just copy over these letters, and maybe I'll chat away as we do this. I do this fairly often. You notice here with the boardroom, this is just to set the scene for it's more for myself than anything. Like in a final product, you're never going to see this picture. I'll take it out. I did the same thing when I was copying Mr. Abrams here. Looks like we have to fix his hair and ear color, maybe put a little bit of color in there, but it helps me. I don't want to I guess it is tracing, but it just helps me focus a scene and make a decision on how a scene is going to look and go from there. Some of it will be copied pretty closely, like there'll be a table in that spot. I'm not going to trace over each individual person. I'll put the character that I want here. It's more to get the placing of everything. And it just speeds things along for me. And even though this was brutally slow and isn't even done yet, it does help me move a little faster, making a decision, and then following through on this path. Otherwise, I would be telling myself, well, what if we looked at it from like behind this guy down the length of the table, like you often see in movies and TV shows, interpretation of a boardroom, and do it that way. Well, what if we did it from like the window? It's a big corporate window. Then there's windows over on this side, in a big fancy office building, looking in, and we do it that way. So we just see everybody face on this side of the table and backs on. And what if we? Oh no! I just need to pick a course of action, an angle to set this scene, and move on. Because really, this is only going to be like these two scenes, which is just the boardroom, and then maybe a bit more of a close-up, and that'd be it. I think I don't have anything here, but I also toyed with the idea, I think, of at the very end. Yeah, so they're sitting at the boardroom. They'll call it, muttering something. Again, very simple, no audio. They're just kind of muttering, confused sounding. And someone maybe says, "Get me JJ," and he comes in, or maybe he's already there, whatever. He does this thing. We cut to this close-up. He does this thing where he's looking at the crawl, puts the tracing paper up. Maybe we go even closer while he's tracing, but we'll figure that out later. Then he very smugly, very happily submits his tracing of A New Hope with the title The Force Awakens. Everyone looks at each other. Maybe they're a little, they're confused. No one really wants to make a stand. Nobody really knows if it's the right thing. What do we do? Everyone's just kind of, well, I don't know. And then maybe we cut to a close-up of Mickey Mouse. The embodiment of Disney. There's Mickey sitting in like a big royal chair, and he says, he just starts to slow clap. Doesn't say anything, just a slow clap. And we cut back here, and everyone's, that's great, and then it's over. Boom, done. And I thought that would be pretty funny. That would be the most complex. We'll try to keep it within those confines. Nothing more complex than what I just described. And I don't know how it'll work for timing, but we'll push through until it's done, and I think that's very doable. The length of the animation shouldn't be too long. Maybe around 10-15 seconds, I guess. I don't know. And very simple that way. and we'll see how long in terms of working hours and recording hours that actually takes us. For now, we're just going to focus, like I said, on these letters, and we'll just have a little chat as I go through and put these letters over top. So yeah, I do this fairly often, I guess. This sort of tracing, I guess tracing with images, backgrounds, lots and lots of backgrounds. I do end up doing like this, just for simplicity, just for my own. I would drive myself crazy if I had to come up with my own backgrounds and pacing of scenes. And I know because I did it for, like, I think I mentioned in another video that the cat thing with the daily dose and the cats in the grocery store, and just trying to come up with a background for that and angles to approach that, it just stalled me out and it never got done. It just did not happen. If someone even asked me about that video, someone I told I was working on, I just said, you know what, it just couldn't happen. I get when I had too many choices and too many ideas, I tend to just kind of freeze up and get crippled from progressing. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way reality for me just seems to be that. And this has been my way to stop it. And I'm not trying to like plagiarize, I guess is really the only word. I'm not stealing anybody else's ideas, like as far as I can see it, and that's not my intent. My focus has always been on the stories themselves, not the animations, definitely not the art, the comedy, the story. Like no one else, as far as I know, has made this joke that I'm making here with the tracing of the. I mean, people have compared it obviously to The Force Awakens to A New Hope. That's obviously, I mean, that was running rampant. That's not, and anybody who knows Star Wars will have seen the connections as they watch the movie anyway. So I mean, that's nothing proprietary there. But in terms of making the joke this way, I've not seen this anywhere else. As far as I know, this is just entirely my idea. So if I have to borrow a boardroom scene, obviously I'm not going to try to remember the exact font that Star Wars is in. I'm just going to trace over it, and that's just the way it's going to be. It'll speed things along, make sure it's accurate. Again, this is not the objective of the video. It's not to say, hey, look at this Star Wars logo. It's to say, hey, look at this joke, with the copying or tribute to A New Hope that was The Force Awakens. And so that's my idea. I mean, the whole thing, my whole premise with doing fan videos of other YouTubers is kind of, it's like using their content, which I give back to them in the form of their characters in the video, acting out their stories in a comical but sensitive way. That these are real people that I'm copying here, and paying tribute to that rather than ridiculing or anything like that. And just and so if I've got to copy a face or a setting, I'm going to do that just to speed it along, because like I said, otherwise I will end up being crippled with too much choice. But I mean, YouTube and content creators and streamers all over are making entire careers off using, to some degree, someone else's intellectual property, right? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to pick a fight here or anything, but that's how it happens, right? Because it's transformative. What they do ends up being transformative. They put their own characters over top of the game, and they act out in their own way, so as to transform the media and make it their own. And that's what I'm doing here. At least that's what I hope I'm doing, especially when I'm just grabbing what does this tree look like? Well, let's find a good tree. I'll go run to the internet, find what a good tree would look like for this particular clip, and throw it in there. Not verbatim. I mean, I don't just put that image in there, but I will copy the style, the scale of it, the ratio to tree to everything else, and it just makes my life easier so that I can tell my story quicker. And you know, again, I'm transforming what they've got, and I've got no problems doing it this way. You know, if it becomes a problem in the future, obviously I'll have to figure something else out if people complain. But I mean, it's not like I'm stealing, I don't know, you know, the Disney logo and then trying to make money off it. I'm not. That's true plagiarism to me. I'm not doing that. So I'm quite comfortable with what I've got going on with in that respect. So I don't think it's an issue. Yeah, that was pretty quick. Yeah, and it makes things go a lot faster, just in general. Excuse me here while I take a sip of coffee. Oh, yeah, take your coffee on your own time, right? Yeah, right. Oh. But that's my job as far as I see it, you know, and I just try to do what I can do with the technology that I've got. And I'm never one to begrudge anybody, really, like to people are just trying to get their job done, you know. Like even today, not today, yesterday, I was in the bank. I know, right? Who goes to the bank? Well, that's probably my first mistake, was going to a bank in 2018. But I had to go. I had some stuff I had to sign, and I had to go see like an actual human person at the desk, the teller, I guess, to go do that. And so I walked in, and when I got to the desk, I gave her my name, I told her what I was here to do, and she went back to get the papers, presumably, and she just never came back to the desk. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on back there, lady? Are you all right? Did you just decide to take your smoke break, or what's happening? And she eventually did come back, and I guess there was some confusion, which I guess was ultimately my own fault or problem. Or I told her, you know, I'm tbroman, and I'm here to sign these papers to change the signing authority for this volunteer group that I'm with. And so she was looking for those papers, and the problem is that the papers were in the name of like tbroman instead of TB, and when she couldn't find TB, she was confused and wanted to make sure that I was the right person, and that's good. But at the same time, like I'm in small town Canada. Even if you don't know who I am, you should, you know, how many volunteer groups are changing their signing authority today? And these were papers that were set there for this human teller by another human bank person, and I was told to come in at my leisure. So that, I mean, they were expecting me, you know. So I just thought, like I said, how many signing authority papers do you actually have back there? This could have been solved a lot quicker. I didn't say any of this, of course, because you know, she's just doing her job. But at the same time, and maybe I was already kind of perturbed by the time I got to the counter, because yeah, who goes to the bank in 2018, right? Well, apparently me and one other lady, because she was ahead of me in line, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and trying to get this very simple thing done, and she took a long time to get her affairs in order, or whatever she was doing. And of course, there's only one bank teller person. I'm standing there, and I'm looking at like 5 windows. You know, back in the heyday of the bank, I guess they needed lots of windows or spots at the desk, and there's like 5 of them, and 4 of them are filled with cards that say another teller will be happy to assist you. But there's only one teller working. So I'm standing there looking at all these empty spaces and cards, and there's one teller helping this one lady, and I'm standing there like a moron. And that just kind of started to aggravate's a strong word, but I mean, I had enough by that point. I want out of this bank. I want nothing to do with it. But I just bit my tongue. I just waited it out. Sure enough, we got it all sorted out. I'm not known as tbroman, you know, it's tbroman my whole life. So, but for important, you know, legal, government, or anything banking, I always just make sure I use my full legal name, which is, you know, tbroman, whereas I'm known as and go by on a day-to-day basis as TB. So And sometimes it doesn't even click that might be the issue to me, because I'm so used to it being one way. You know, come tax time coming up in a few months, I guess I'll start to remember, oh yeah, everything is in tbroman. But for most day to day, I'm just like, yeah, it's TB. What's the problem? But in reality, it's something different entirely. So we're closing in here on finishing these words. Oh, this didn't turn out quite. This needs to be straighter. Yeah, so we'll continue to push through this stuff on the next episode. And as I'm talking here, I can't remember the commands for copy paste. Oh boy, there we go. And that should be good. Yeah, that's pretty good. So there's our Star Wars. We'll throw some. Wait a minute. Now Star Wars. That's embarrassing. I grew up in this franchise. Is it a black background? There's got to be some stars in the opening crawl of Star Wars, isn't there? There's got to be. I'll figure that out. Like I say, off camera, I imagine I'll be doing a lot of, if something's really giving me a hard time with the frames, I will be able to do some of that off camera if it's holding me back too much. I mean, the talking through, like in the last video there, talking through those smoke problems, I mean, I enjoyed that. It was helpful, rather than me just sitting by myself, kind of scratching my head. Talking it out really kept me in the moment, calm. I wasn't getting too flustered with it. I was just, we'll figure stuff out as we go. We don't have to worry about it too much. I'll take a look and see if Star Wars has stars in the background of the crawl. It's probably just not this many. It's just very densely packed here. And we'll get that sorted out. This will scroll up the screen. He'll put on his tracing paper, pause the video, and he'll just trace over Star Wars. The hardest part will probably be getting this layer to appear from nowhere without being on the screen. Is this, excuse me, this television is all one. Yeah. If this TV was made up of multiple layers, I might be able to hide the Star Wars behind the layer, and then it'll crawl up and then appear to about here. We'll have the words. I'll look up the opening crawl words, and I'll just, maybe a few of them will be taken right from the crawl, and then I'll go on yada yada, or something dark side, or something like that, and just for another little bit of an Easter egg. I like the Easter egg kind of thing going on. And if someone wants to take the time to look at that, oh yeah, I remember that's from that show where they made fun of Star Wars, like every other show on the face of the earth. So we'll hopefully move through this pretty quick. We'll get it done. It will be a finished, completed product finally. It will have the life that it deserved years ago when it was actually relevant, and it will get posted on the channel. I do also post stuff to Reddit on r/animate or animation, I guess, and try to get some feedback from there. Again, I'm not really about the animation so much as the storytelling, but animation, that subreddit was about the closest I could get to. They're not that active on there on giving feedback for someone as incapable as I am, but it's a good place. I like to kind of drive a few eyes to a video and maybe get some feedback on what we can do to improve the next time, or keep doing, or just drop all together. So until then, thanks very much. See you soon.